Available now at whitepillbook.com. Folks, this episode is brought to you by Patriot Gold Group. Call 888-505-9845. Mention me, Michael Malice, and get your free investor guide today. Again, that's 888-505-9845 for your free investor guide today.
And there's nothing going on tonight. We could be in the city light. Or maybe just get drunk and stay inside.
Good afternoon, Michael Malice here. Let that be your welcome for the next hour. We have with us our returning guest, a man who needs no introduction, Nazi hater, it's fair to say, hater of globalists, Alex Jones. Alex, welcome back to the show.
Michael, good to be here. Yes, I'm a hater of authoritarians. I'm a hater of centralized control. I'm a lover of freedom. But it seems like some of the folks that were on the show were like kind of upset and like think that I've outed myself as not being for Hitler, whereas I've never been a fan of Hitler or the 60 million people that died needlessly in World War II. So, I mean, to me, it's not being a sellout to not be for Hitler. Just as I don't like the ADL and all this leftist crap they do, or just because I don't like communists, doesn't mean I then also like Hitler. And I think Americans understood at the end of World War II that Stalin was bad and so was Hitler. So the two aren't mutually exclusive as bad guys. It's kind of like there's a shotgun blast to the head will kill you, or a 357 Magnum slug into the head will kill you, or arsenic will kill you, so will cyanide. So I think, those are both mutually bad poisons. But again, I'm not deep intellectual. I don't understand that Hitler was actually a big hero. Like Richard Spencer said, I don't realize the dark beauty and power of Hitler.
So yeah, let's backtrack a little bit so people can understand what we're talking about. So I am Jewish, and it's kind of surprising to me for this perception that Hitler, who we fought a world war against, was somehow only against Jewish people. He was, hated everybody else pretty much other than the Aryan race, regard them as they were the master race, everyone else is slave races. Stalin, I disagree with you a little bit, because I don't think there's an understanding in America of how bad Stalin was. Because we teamed up with him during World War II, there's kind of this perception that, oh, well, he did some kind of screwed up things, and they kind of sweep under the rug his atrocities. And that is something that I think more people are discussing nowadays, and correctly so. But let me give you a little background about this. I interviewed for my book, The New Right, Jared Taylor, who runs American Renaissance. He is a white nationalist, and I went to his home to interview him. And even he, this was 3 or 4 years ago, was taken aback. He grew up in Japan, so he has a very kind of William F. Buckley accent. And I'll never forget the quote he said to me. He goes, "The idea in this day and age that Hitlerism would be a model for Americans is simply fantastic." And I go, "You mean like unthinkable?" He goes, "Oh, yes, thank you for the clarification." So he couldn't wrap his head around it. Were you, and you've spoken, I mean, I can't think of an easier person to denounce as an American than Hitler. I mean, he's literally the kind of, in American view, ultimate evil. Were you surprised? So you had Kanye West. Let me just finish. Let me get the background. So I'll let you talk as much as you want, obviously. You had Nick Fuentes and Kanye West on your show last week. Kanye started praising Hitler, saying there are good things about everyone, especially Hitler. Can you walk us through how that interview happened and what was going through your head when you heard him say these things?
Sure, you're making great points, Michael. I want you to keep going, actually. I just realized that my normal ballpoint pen isn't here. All I have is a Sharpie. Can somebody in the control room bring me a pen? Because, Michael, my frustration is you made like 5 good points, and I'm forgetting each one as you go along. But I can go to memory. Let me unpack what you just said in the last 2 minutes, because it's all absolutely true. First off, I do understand that Stalin was almost as bad as Hitler. He just wasn't as well organized. And Stalin actually recognized this, as you know, as a historian, and admired Hitler and loved the fact that he could kill even more people and build bigger war machines with less people. And he was constantly telling his generals and other people, can't you be more like Hitler? I mean, that's in the official annals. He didn't hide that. And of course, he had an alliance with Hitler when they divided up Poland until Operation Barbarossa in 1942, when Hitler double-crossed him, and then Stalin was beside himself.
Right.
So that's not some Hollywood version of things. In fact, that's never in the movies. You're right. Hollywood kind of lionizes Stalin. You're absolutely right. The average American doesn't know how bad Stalin was. Stalin was really kind of a Hitler wannabe. So you're right about that.
Wait, no, I got to interrupt you. Hitler was a Stalin wannabe. Stalin came first. He had the Holodomor in the early 30s, genociding the Ukrainians, and many of the things Stalin did, Hitler borrowed.
Well, no, it's true. They both borrowed from each other, but
Yes,
Stalin
that's
did
fair.
admire Hitler.
Yes.
Stalin did admire Hitler. But you're absolutely right. The point is, these were two mountainous tyrants, okay? And so anybody that then dumbs that down and thinks, well, just because some things about World War II have been obscured, or just because Hollywood, I think wrongfully so, only focuses on Jews being killed. I mean, Hitler killed, as you said, a whole bunch of innocent people. I think that limits it. So there becomes this fetish of, ooh, touch the third rail, really prove how naughty you are and how you're really avant-garde. Say you like Hitler. Well, that's like saying you like Jeffrey Dahmer. It doesn't make you sound shocking. It makes you sound crazy. So that was a good point. And then you made your other points that were really important. What were yeah. It was the mainline Nazis that helped get him into power that tried to kill Hitler. They were trying to kill Hitler the last 2-3 years of the war because they realized what a maniac he was, all full of speed, waking up at 2 p.m, staying up all night, doing all the things he did, making all sorts of military blunders, doing all this crazy stuff. They told him with the final solution, they said, if you spend a third of our resources rounding up undesirables, Jews, gypsies, your political enemies, Poles, all these people, and working them to death and killing them, we're going to lose the war. And he literally, there's documents. This isn't like made up, where he said, I don't care if we lose the war, just keep killing. So he saw that as his main mission in the final solution. So if you're really into Germanicness and the Norse, you care about European culture, I'm not ashamed of my past, and then I've got connections to that. It's an amazing culture, cool culture, love all cultures. If you're really into Germanic peoples, then you really shouldn't like Hitler, because his actions got 22 million Germans killed. So I think he's an all-around very bad guy. And even most of the early Nazis that got him into power, he ended up killing. And also they say, oh, Hitler was a Christian. No, Hitler was an occultist. Hitler wanted to eradicate Christianity. Yes, the Catholic Church, because he ran Italy and Germany for a while, did get in line with him, and they did help get Nazis out. And so there was some of that going on. But predominantly, Hitler was a occultist. He borrowed stuff from the Buddhists. He borrowed stuff from the Hindus, borrowed stuff from the Norse. That's what their uniforms were all about, mixed it all together. And so that's the reality that these people think they know about Hitler from Hollywood's version that they think isn't true, versus the real historical Hitler that was an absolute total disaster. And then they look at all of the culture and all of the development and all of the science and the uniforms and all that. In the 20s and 30s, even though Germany was in a depression in the early 30s and for a few years after Hitler took over in 33, Germany was the leader in science and technology and roads and chemicals and weapons and everything else. So people act like Hitler invented all this. Hitler would put his name on everything. He'd make them come in with Albert Speer, who ran the Interior Ministry, and they would make everything be signed on, and then they would say that Hitler had created it. So again, there's this myth, and it's almost like a bad dream to be sitting here watching people reject our power structure, reject the globalists, which is healthy, that people don't like our current system, but to then think a failed system that challenged that 76 years ago and ended with all these tens of millions of deaths is somehow sexy and cool because they had Hugo Boss uniforms and drove around in super Mercedes is just absolutely disgusting.
What was going through your head when you were sitting there and Kanye and Nick Fuentes were on your stage saying these things? Were you worried how people would perceive it?
I got what they were doing once it was going on. It was basically burn down the whole world, just be as radical as possible and shock the system. And then I was talking to Nick Fuentes a few days ago on the phone, because I'm going to debate him tomorrow on my show. He's going to be here in person in the studio. And I said, what's your goal here? And he said, I just want to see it all burn down. And I said, okay, well, I mean, I understand that. And we have previous clips of Fuentes saying he doesn't support Hitler on air. So I thought the media was kind of misrepresenting what he was saying and doing. I thought the media was exaggerating. And he has a total right to say he loves Hitler. They have a total right to say all that. And the way the left promotes racial division and segregation and all this stuff, I can see how people think, well, then if the left's so racist, we should flip back the other way. But they had told me, or Ye had told me, that they were kind of over the Jew thing and over all this. And they wanted to talk about schools in America and bringing jobs back in his 2024 run and what his platform would be. And then he gets out of the car. I was waiting for him outside in the GIMP outfit with Nick Fuentes, who is kind of like the Salacious Crumb. And I'm not being mean. It's a funny joke Jimmy Kimmel made that I'm the fat Jabba the Hutt and he's this little Salacious Crumb, because he does kind of giggle and snicker and everything. And I think Nick's a likable creature. I like when you watch the movie Gremlins and you see the little gremlins, they're kind of cute. But he's going to be in studio with me tomorrow. And I didn't really expect him to do that. But then it went on for 3+ hours. So I thought, hey, you guys get out of your system. You just go ahead and bash Jews for an hour. And about an hour, I said, can we move on now? No, we just got to press on that dopamine level. We're saying the naughty thing. We got Dad's Playboys out when he was on a fishing trip, and we're looking at those Playboys, and we're not going to stop looking at those Playboys. And so I really think this was all an exercise in trolling. In fact, Fuentes has now come out and said he and Kanye are the Joker, and they're burning down the whole system. And that's what they intend to do. But I really don't think they're burning the system down. I think they have helped tar the Republican, populist, libertarian, Trumpist wing, which isn't perfect, Nazi-like. They admit that they basically snuck in Fuentes and others with Ye. Trump had nothing to do with that. And so if they are trying to, I think, help the Democrats wrongfully say Republicans are all a bunch of Nazis, they've added a little bit of credibility to that. But everybody's been called a Nazi where nobody takes it serious, which I think is a bigger problem in that the left's called everybody Nazis, to where now when Ye says, I love Hitler, I've seen not support, but massive screw the system. So what if he says that? F the system. And I've seen the ADL coming out and lying about people and trying to censor and bullying people and really engage when I see as Nazi-like tactics or Stalinistic communist tactics that they know full well they're helping foment all this by putting a Jewish name on censorship and control, and that they're trying to follow those tropes and stereotypes, knowing that when it causes a big anti-Semitic backlash, they're going to be in the driver's seat for all those donations. So this is a very, very cold-blooded situation that I see unfolding here.
Previous to appearing on your show, the two of them had appeared with Milo Yiannopoulos on Tim Pool's show. Was he not supposed to come to your show? Was he not invited? What were the circumstances there?
I never really worried about it or spent much time on it. Ye was supposed to come here like a month and a half ago. And then he got to the airport and turned around and didn't. And then my producer was talking to him and said, hey, Milo Yiannopoulos wants your number. Do you want to talk to him? He said, sure. So we just gave his number to them. I wasn't like sitting there like, oh, please come on. We're like waiting right now, get on the show. I think Ye had a lot of courage to stand up for Trump, a lot of courage to make a lot of the great points he did, a lot of courage to speak out, against some of the Hollywood stuff. And when I saw the stories about the Hitler stuff, I thought that's made up. That's leftist lies. And then once he got here, I really saw him doing it as a protest against the system. And really just trying to be the most shocking guy in America. And then I think that Nick, who's obviously a smart guy and entertaining and funny in some ways, also is kind of following the same shtick. And so at the end of the day, I don't think they both actually love Hitler. I think that they're attracted to the shock value that comes with that. And so, no, he was not supposed to come on my show when he went on the Tim Pool show. And then he called me, I think like a day after it, and said, I'm thinking about coming. I said, sure, come whenever. He said, I want Nick to be there. I said, fine. And then he called me the next day and he said, we're getting on an airplane in an hour and we're going to be there tonight. And so sure enough, he flew here. And then he wanted to come on right when the show started. So I said, be here at 10:30 so we can talk. My show starts at 11 a.m. Central, weekdays. And then he, like I said, he showed up 10 minutes before showtime in the mask. I said, let me take the mask off so I know it's you. He unzipped it. It was him. And I could tell it was him by the build and his voice and everything. But he took the mask off for a minute or opened it up. And then they came in here, and it was just basically, and he says a lot of important things, a lot of things I agree with, a lot of things I think are helpful. And so I was kind of sad to see it all blow up like that. And then I kind of felt bad, and not that I repudiated Hitler, but that I think it was hurtful to Ye that I wouldn't, quote, go all the way with him. But I'm not anywhere near Hitler. I'm on the other side of authoritarianism. So a lot of people again think, well, just because you're against the left, just because you're against communism, and just because you're against the anti-American folks that do run Hollywood, and this whole globalist operation, that you then suddenly love another branch of tyranny. And I despise them all. And so I think the most inauthentic thing that Nick Fuentes has done is say, Alex Jones got the call. The Jews called Alex Jones, and they said, don't have, criticize Ye or Nick Fuentes. And of course, anybody that knows anything about my show is nobody tells me what to do. I wish sometimes somebody was warning me back in the past when I made mistakes. No one's scripting anything. I don't talk to people before I go on the air. I don't sit there and strategize things with people. We didn't talk before I came on your show. Right before we went on, I said, what's the topic? You said, What do you think? I want to talk about Russia and Ukraine and the escalating threat of nuclear war. I'm talking about the totally imploded borders. And it's fine if we had those and it was a free market, but it's not. I want to talk about the fentanyl. I want to talk about the dollar devaluation. I want to talk about all these things. But I'll say this. The system really jumped all over that Ye interview and really pushed it and tried to use it against Republicans. But they got such a backlash of not Hitler support, but people saying, screw the system. We hate Hitler and we hate you, that they kind of dropped the whole thing. And so I think the fact that there was so much support for what Ye said, and it's been, I'd say 30% of people supported it, what I've seen, really shows how screwed up and nihilistic society's gotten. And for all these folks wishing for Hitler, you better not hope you get what you're asking for, because if you have any idea what World War II was really like and the mass scale of death and then what it led into, you're an absolute fool. But living in this lap of freedom compared to other nations, we're certainly not perfect, but comparatively, this best house in a bad neighborhood, people really have no idea what we're rapidly losing. And if you actually study the policies of Hitler, forced euthanasia, infanticide, all the medical tyranny, the lockdowns, the uniforms, the surveillance, the censorship, the IDing of people. I mean, we've got public colleges across the U.S., I was reading, making white people wear badges, digital security badges that don't let them in certain minority areas. That's right out of Nazi Germany. So if you study what the Nazis did, that's why 30,000+ of them in the rat line in Operation Paperclip, wasn't 6,000, wasn't 4,000, it was over 30,000, were brought here, was because they would follow orders and they'd proven that they would do what they were told, and they had all sorts of degrees, and they'd built Hitler's war machine that up until that time was the most advanced in the world. And so people want to get mad at Ye for saying he admires and loves Hitler and all that. Well, Ye never brought 30,000+ Nazis in the United States to, head up major federal departments like NASA.
Hey guys, Michael Malice here, and I want to talk to you about Sheath Underwear, which is the underwear I wear every single day without fail. What makes Sheath Underwear so great? Well, they've got this dual pouch system, which has one pouch for one part of your male anatomy, another part for another part of your male anatomy. And you put it on the first time, and you were like, this is kind of weird to have my underwear gripping me down there. But I'm going to tell you, it is the most comfortable underwear you're ever going to wear. It's great when it's hot outside. It's great when there's no sticking, no chafing. It keeps you nice and tight. These boxer briefs are the best. They've got some new additions. They got a mesh one. They got a bamboo one. And they have the limited edition Michael Malice Dynamite pair. All you got to do is go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice, and you get 20% off, and you can get inside my pants. All you got to do is go to sheathunderwear.com and use promo code Malice to get 20% off. Support the underwear that supports you and supports the show. Let's get back to the show. I just have to make a little correction. You're not allowed to use the word shtick. That's our word. So please stop appropriating my culture.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just for future reference, wanted to make sure that was clear. You have always been an opponent of authoritarianism. One of the big arguments I had, I was on the Blaze for election night, And when the Republicans didn't have their red wave as they were anticipating, everyone looked like they just watched, like their favorite dog just get shot in the head. And from my perspective, the idea that Mitch McConnell is having a big Senate majority would somehow be a bulwark against authoritarianism or corporate domination of America, or what you would refer to as globalist control, seems to be completely demented. And I see very little, if any, mechanism within the Republican Party for rolling back the surveillance state or fighting back against 2A restrictions and things like this. What was your perspective on the midterms and the disappointing results for the Republican Party?
Well, we know from Professor Epstein and other top statisticians that they don't need to steal the election at the ballot box or the mail-in ballots. They do it with the way big tech manipulates the elections and steers people away from populist or conservative or nationalist views. And so you got three camps. You have the Democratic Party, neoliberal deep state. You have the neocon, rhino, warmonger deep state. And then you've kind of got the populist, libertarian / Trump, Christian conservative coalition of all those different groups together that don't want to live in an authoritarian, fascist, crony capitalist, anti-free market model. And so Trump didn't do much about censorship, but notice he got censored. And with the censorship comes what enforces it, and that's the surveillance of what everybody's been saying. And so even Jim Jordan, it turns out, is on the payroll of Google and is going along with all of their latest consolidations and expansions of power. So we're given the illusion of choice, the illusion that the two parties are really fighting with each other. But at the end of the day, they really have a status quo, which is the erosion of freedom, the surveillance state, the centralization of power, vertical integration of economies and money, and really the destruction of the middle class, which is the goal of this global ruling class that wants to consolidate power. So you could call it fascist, you could call it communist. I mean, I really call it a managed capitalist economy using fascist and communist techniques for control, with kind of a lower floor of the social credit score and the universal basic income once they've gotten rid of the real economy. So we'll be communist at the grassroots, controlled by our local commissars with nothing, and then a two-tier society with the manager class, and then a group on top that are the owners. And if you actually read the white papers put out by the Republican and Democrat think tanks, look at what Bill Clinton's speeches are, Barack Obama's speeches, they go and top universities around the world and say, we have a system where we have communist countries that work with the capitalist countries, and you may be a capitalist that works with communists or vice versa, and you're going to be the management class. Obama was in South America telling I forget what country, a big class of law graduates that were about to graduate, that you'll be a communist country, but you'll work with the capitalist country and you'll be the manager class. So none of the terms mean anything. It's either centralized or decentralized. And so that's why it's so, and I can't help it. I want to be nice to Ye. I want to wake him up. I want to see him, get away from what he's doing. And I want to be friends, when he says I'm a legend and all that stuff. But none of that buttering me up is going to make me sit there and pretend that some horrible fascist model of Adolf Hitler was good. The money system, the banks, under the Versailles Treaty, crushed Germany with overwhelming debts they couldn't pay, and then suddenly, took all those off, and suddenly Hitler had unlimited funding to build up Germany. And if you read some of the Lord Milner documents and others that came, they were looking to find a strong man to put in charge of Germany again, to build up as the new enemy yet again, because British intelligence had so completely infiltrated the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And so it wasn't that Hitler worked for them. It was that they had secret treaties with him and Rudolf Hess, the deputy Fuhrer, and they had deals to put Edward VIII, the King of England, over a new European Union and an Austrian-Hungarian super state, because, again, that was a German monarch who was the King of England at the time. And so all that's in the real deep history of what went on, how Hitler was set up and put in power and built up and had secret peace treaties with England. That's why at Dunkirk, he let the British evacuate and the whole British expeditionary fleet. And that's why Rudolf Hess parachuted into the palace with the peace treaty. And they locked him up in the tower, until he died in the early 1980s, was because Hitler and the Nazis were total chumps, completely set up by the British Empire to play the role they carried out in World War II. And that's just a fact.
When you refer to Ye as having a homoerotic fixation with Hitler, what did you mean by that?
I think that's a media misrepresentation. I can see how it was edited together like that. But
Okay.
I really wasn't talking about him. I was talking about Richard Spencer in a clip that I had seen previous and other clips since, where he just goes, the beauty of the dark power of Hitler. And then later after the Ye interview, he said it again. Alex Jones and the Republicans, they're just scared of it. They're still under leftist control. They claim that they're these right wingers. They just can't admit it that Hitler's beautiful. He's wonderful. He's sexy. He's so perfect. And Ye has broken with that. He knows how good our dear Fuhrer is. And there is this thing out there where even if it's not conscious, there's this, oh, look at the uniforms, look at the formations, look at those big, strong men marching with their torches. I mean, we need that. We need that order. We need that beauty. We need that. And meanwhile, the whole thing was obsessed with mechanization and order and all the martial garbage, but behind it was just a rotting facade, just like all these big super states. And so, again, it's not like I'm trying to get kudos from the left. They don't buy products at InfoWarsStore.com. They're trying to shut me down. They want to destroy me. I didn't like having to have Hitler brought up. I didn't like having to come out and say that was all, BS, because what Spencer was saying in a sick way is true. The left worships Hitler as their shill to paint everybody as bad. And then some of the ultra right-wing people also fetishize Hitler. And so it's this third rail of naughtiness when it's a failed state for 77 years and a joke and a fraud.
So there are two terms that have been bandied about as a result of that interview, and I want to ask you to address those criticisms directly. So the first term that you just referenced earlier, now people have started referring to you as controlled opposition. Are you controlled opposition, and what does that term mean to you?
Controlled opposition is what I would say Elon Musk is.
Okay.
And I'm not saying Elon Musk is consciously a bad guy, but he knows the people are against globalism, the New World Order, they're against censorship. And he goes, man, my businesses would be a lot more successful if I cater to that and allow more freedom. I'll be where everybody wants to go. And so he understands that he can get away with that so far with the power structure, and they're still trying to destroy him. So a controlled opposition goes as far as it can, but then as soon as it gets reeled back in, it still has masters that tell it what to do. It's kind of like good cop, bad cop, where one cop goes, hey, I'm your friend, but Bob's really mad. He's going to take you to jail or break your nose if you don't tell him where you hid the money or where you hid the drugs or, where the kid is or whatever. And so really controlled opposition is the good cop in a good cop, bad cop scenario. And that is the furthest thing in the world from what I am. It's easy to just sit there when you've not been on air 28 years and just say, well, he doesn't like Hitler, therefore he's controlled opposition. That's, again, behaving as if we're in a bipolar world,
right?
Where there's Hitler and then there's everybody else, whereas the universe is a lot bigger. No, there's Mao Zedong and there's Kim Jong-un and there's Joseph Stalin and there's V.I. Lenin and there's Fidel Castro and there's Julius Caesar and there's Mehmet the Great that captured Constantinople, and there's Attila the Hun and there's Genghis Khan and there's the Byzantine Empire and the Roman Empire and the it just goes on and on and on and on. And the Chinese, 5 failed invasions of Japan and the kamikaze, the divine wind and the atomic bomb. There's all this incredible stuff in history going on. And the left wing has condensed everything down to there's Hitler and then Captain America, which is ridiculous and crazy. And the left has more to kin to Hitler than the right wing. And then you've got the ultra right wing, that's basically usually left wing, and it usually does have some kind of weird pseudo homosexual stuff going on. That was even the Nazi party. They killed gay people, but half of them were gay. It's just the same thing again. It's a really dumbed down, like a video game. Like I go to the store, and when I'm a kid, and they got the gray soldiers of the Nazis and the green soldiers of the Americans, and then I get the soldiers, and that's the whole world is my Guns of Navarone set that I have, and I'm having a battle with these guys in the backyard in the sandbox. When the world is way bigger, there's now the transhumanists that run the globalist system, that want total monopoly over all human behavior, who want to turn us into basically a factory product. That's their end game. There were two competing forces at that time, two big ones. British intelligentsia, the eugenics movement, founded in 1855 by Galton. The Nazis then pick it up when it's a worldwide craze in the 30s out of the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute that was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, Cold Springs Harbor, New York. And then Hitler gets all that funding. He's Time Magazine Man of the Year. The West says he's the best guy ever. My grandfather grew up in Dallas, where WOAI would air Hitler speeches saying he was the best thing ever. National News said he was this wonderful person. And then, of course, my grandfather later learned he wasn't. We'll have to fight him in World War II. But the point is, that was a whole nother world. And, you know, the reason I go into all this history is that it's just very, very frustrating that, you know, some of those folks don't get it.
The other term people have been calling you is grifter. Are you a grifter, and what does that term mean to you?
A grifter is somebody that just goes out always looking for new opportunities to make money, and most of them are unscrupulous or fly-by-night. And so I'm the opposite of fly-by-night. I've been on the air 28 years, right. and I've never compromised what I say and do. And 100%, I don't have big money funding me. And so I do sell books and films and T-shirts like everybody else does. And I do sell high-quality supplements because that's the fastest, biggest growing market, just like Whole Foods does and everybody else does. And I sell highest-rated ones. The leftist media has misrepresented and flat out lied about how much money I made. I wish I made $60 million last year. That's a total lie. That was $60 million I've made over the last 12 years. They got all that in Discovery, and I spent most of it on taxes and bills and lawsuits and the rest of it. And so that's why I finally declared bankruptcy, because I'm almost out of money, and I'm going to just show the world that that's the case and that it's not true. And so saying somebody's a controlled opposition or saying somebody's a grifter is just a quick thing for the unintellectual to just say something real simple. It's like the CIA after they assassinated Kennedy in 1963. They admitted in 1967 that they created the word conspiracy theorist. Instead of looking into all the evidence that the CIA and others were there and killed him, you just say, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It's a fancy word so that ignorant people or uninformed people or stupid people can feel smart and not hear about how the deep state killed the president. We can just oh, that's a thing. That's fake news. That's a conspiracy theory. That's mental illness. No. Tucker Carlson, not talking about myself, but Tucker Carlson has come out every week. I appreciate him doing it. We're friends. And said, Alex Jones is right again. Alex Jones is right again. Well, I was the first on a major scale to expose the Countering Foreign Disinformation Propaganda Act that Obama put in before he left in 2016, early 2017, that said we're going to use the CIA and FBI against foreign disinformation. And then they had a law passed that foreign disinformation can be anything domestic. So as long as they waved a magic wand and said maybe Russians are involved, they had Google and Facebook and Twitter interfacing with the Justice Department and with the State Department and with the CIA to come in and suppress the American people. So of course that's in all the Twitter files. And I sent that stuff like 6 years ago to Tucker Carlson. I've known Tucker like 13 years. He's been out here to Austin to visit and stuff like that. And he was like, this is crazy. Is this real? And so now he knows I was right about that. But it wasn't because I was a rocket scientist. All I do is read and study this stuff when I'm not on air, when I'm not with family. And so I know all this stuff. So people get tomorrow's news today from me. A grifter would taken all their offers to sell out. I was offered Fox News shows by Roger Ailes. I was offered the book deals. I was offered Glenn Beck's job before they created him. I mean, I was offered all that. I was offered the whole deal, the Fox News gig, the whole 9 yards, everything. But I wouldn't have control over what I said and what I did. And so here I am today, the opposite of a grifter, a maverick that has absolutely told the truth and fought as hard as I can to expose corruption. And so people can come along, and I don't want to get in a fight with Ye or Nick Fuentes or any of them. I'd love to have them back on and have a real debate with them. It's just that those one-off terms really, at the end of the day, don't do anything.
Folks, the holiday season is here, and I don't know about you, but I sure like a nice, delicious, freshly cooked cut of beef. And the holidays are here, and the best way for gifting greatness is when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha steaks. Omaha Steaks have put together a delicious selection of various gift packages to make shopping for the ones you love nice and easy. Go to omahasteaks.com and take advantage of 50% off site-wide. Plus, use code Malice at the checkout. You get another $40 off your order. Omaha Steaks has everything you need to give a gift that's simply perfect. Send an assortment of mouthwatering favorites. They've got their butcher's cut filet mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, which I got a bunch of in my freezer, and they're really good, ultra juicy burgers, and even easy-to-prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Don't wait. Beat the rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code Malice to checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. And order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best, and they are. I've tried them. I love them. Visit omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of 50% off site-wide. Plus, use promo code Malice at checkout, and you get another $40 off your order. Minimum order may be required. Let's get back to the show. So it's you earlier said that you regard Elon Musk as an example of controlled opposition. I'm not sure if you saw this because you're not back on Twitter, obviously, but he had tweeted out that his pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Is that something that you are in favor of? And what would be the case for prosecuting Fauci for those who are uninformed of what you think he did?
Well, I want to be 100% clear. I have told my audience that I'm not going to go off whether I trust somebody or not. I'm going to go off the fruits of what they do.
Sure.
I'm going to go off, what the results are, like Martin Luther King said. And I had questions about him 5-6 years ago and thought he was trying to play on both sides. But I told my audience today, I said, I don't want to debate speculation about Elon Musk anymore. Everything he's doing is super avant-garde, major league dangerous, and he's got the deep state legitimately coming out from under the rocks, the Brennans and the Clappers and the Obamas and all of them, and a full mobilization against him because he's about to drop these files that Fauci lied to Congress when he said he wasn't censoring. Fauci lied to the attorney generals of the states. He was just in a deposition 2 weeks ago. And Fauci lied about gain of function. We already know he lied. We already know from other sources what is in the Twitter files, but this is him specifically in there directing this with the National Institutes of Health and the CDC and the rest of it. And so going after Fauci and going after the shots and it is going directly for the deep state's jugular. And so people could argue, well, he didn't really start PayPal, or he didn't really mine, emeralds, or he didn't really start Tesla, or he didn't really, get those heavy lifters into space, or well, now he didn't really buy Twitter. He isn't really bringing back most of the people. He isn't really going after the deep state. He isn't really releasing it all. And look, I get it. I'm this token guy that, okay, well, Alex Jones is so demonized. There's been so much money and time spent making me the devil because the deep state was scared that's that way he can bring everybody else back in. But I'm the sacrificial goat. I'm the sin eater, but Alex Jones doesn't come back. And that's what I saw him doing earlier. And I kind of like being that black sheep. So I understand what he's doing. So if he keeps moving in this direction, I said today on my show, on the Monday, December 12th show, I said, Elon Musk is the new Alex Jones, for real, a lot smarter, a lot more well thought out, but he's doing it later in life. I think he's the same age as me. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 21, so I'm totally self-taught. But no, it was remarkable that he got into PayPal. It was remarkable that he got Tesla and brought it to where it was. It's remarkable that he brought NASA back with heavy lifters that had failed. Now we have better heavy lifters than the Russians, and spaceships like Buck Rogers that fly down and land, on the surface, and the boosters. So no, he's totally proven himself. The man is an absolute maverick. I cannot but help admire him, and I only want to cheer him on. But then there's the super creepy factor of you don't know the devil when he's got his hand on your shoulder. Elon Musk doesn't have his hand literally on my shoulder. I just like almost everything I see him doing. And so I want to believe he's real. And you know what I think he's really doing? I think he's engaged in dominance. And so if humanity chooses to have children, go to Mars, be successful, we want a pro-human future, he wants to be there to sell us the accoutrement on that trip. But if we're going to totally go the AI and the cyborg route and the end of humanity, he wants to be the chief cyborg. So I really think Elon Musk, for whatever you want to say about him, has been able to manipulate the elite, manipulate the establishment, sell the public, and basically do everything he wanted to get in the prime position of where he is now to take on the deep state and basically take over their operations from him. So I think Elon Musk is the most important man in the world right now.
You earlier mentioned, and this is a term that comes up a lot regarding Fauci in terms of him funding gain of function research. And this is an expression you hear over and over in social media. Can you explain what that is, what his involvement was, and why you think that's such a bad thing?
Well, gain of function, put simply, is anything that takes an existing pathogen, a virus or a bacteria, and makes it more hardy, makes it be able to spread easier.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
and makes it more deadly. And you're talking about gain of function, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Sure. And so I know you know this. You're just letting me answer the questions. So he ran major consortium think tank meetings called in favor of gain of function and things like that. It's in hundreds and hundreds of emails that are public. Thanks to some of the whistleblowers that have come out. And so we know that he was kind of the octopus overseeing the big corporate money that was going into the NIH, into the CDC, and the CDC's own patents going back into the corporations that then go offshore to do gain of function, like in places like Wuhan, that had been ruled illegal here in the US in 2015 at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And so they simply outsourced that to places they could do it, and then simultaneously developed vaccines that paralleled those pathogens in the supposed treatment of them. So obviously, I see the conspiratorial, premeditated nature of this and the setup for it, and a lot of evidence to that. But regardless, they illegally created gain of function pathogens. And since 2015, now it's come out at Boston University and in London as well, at their big medical university. They've created COVID-19 super strains in the last year that kill 80% of humanized mice in trials, human, animal, cloned, chimeric mice, which mirror the effect in humans. So they've created a new plague that doesn't kill 0.1% of people, that kills up to 80% of those that get infected. And it's at Boston University right now, and that's admitted. So that's a crime, as Senator Paul has said, and these people all need to go to prison. We're not watching 12 Monkeys. You know, this isn't a Hollywood film. We're not eating popcorn, folks. We're not eating popcorn and Junior Mints. This is the real world, and it's deadly dangerous, and it needs to stop right now.
Can you explain to me what the case would be for making these kinds of super viruses? Because I could understand like biological warfare, you want to kill the enemy, so on and so forth. But if something is just extremely contagious and extremely lethal, there's no possibility that in a state of war, you're going to be able to contain it against the opposing troops. It's just going to spread and kill everyone. So what am I missing here? Why would they want to develop this kind of weaponry?
Unless you want to depopulate people, and then you're going to have a treatment that mitigates it but doesn't get rid of it. You want to make people currently perpetually sick. But expanding on that, here's what they do. And everybody, this is Mainline. I had a whistleblower on this week who is the main Wuhan whistleblower, the former vice president of EcoHealth Alliance and the chief scientist. And what Dr. Huff was breaking down is that these are really bioweapons labs, but to get around the law, they claim we're creating new strains that we think might naturally occur or somebody else might make so that we have stuff on the shelf that'll counter it. So what they're doing is making bioweapons and then creating, quote, treatments or mitigating factors or cures for it. But really, it's just a cover for that. But then Dr. Huff and many others point out, how is a chimeric 5-part new coronavirus that's 5 different viruses that accelerated evolution millions of years into the future by mutating these viruses in pigs and mice over and over again? How would some random enemy know the incredibly complex thing you did when there's a trillion different ways to make these different deadly viruses? How would they magically make that exact virus? And then how would you then have the counter for it in this vaccine stockpile? And so that's what's come out in the documents is in late 2019, the orders went out of the Wuhan lab or out of EcoHealth Alliance that had part of the lab. Here's the virus sequences. Here's what it is. And get these vaccines ready. And they sent them all out to Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson. And once that all went out to them, they began, quote, making it. But that was kind of like the fencing of it. It turned out that they'd been developing for at least 5 years chimeric coronavirus vaccines and already had them all ready. And so they did not just suddenly say, oh, we made this in 2 days. Moderna made this in 2 days and then gave Pfizer, the patent. The Moderna is just the equivalent of 4 shots of the Pfizer. No, they had developed this over years. They already had all these strains ready to go. And that's what Dr. Huff and others are talking about. And so that's why this is so incredibly smoking gun.
Can you, President Trump recently announced that he's running for a second term starting in 2024. Trump has been on your show. He got heat for it from Hillary Clinton at the time. Have you been in contact with him or his campaign since he announced he's running again for president? And are you an early supporter of him for the nomination?
I've not been trying to talk to Trump. Roger Stone talks to him a lot. I've gotten Trump information and said, will you please come out like DeSantis has and point out that children shouldn't take these shots? And he just told Alex, I don't want to hear about this anymore. So I've not really tried to talk to him in months. I still like Trump a lot. I also like DeSantis. And I like DeSantis a lot more when he's been coming out, you know, for the medical rights of folks and saying, leave the kids alone. I really, if I could have my druthers of who would be president in 2024, it would be Senator Paul as the president and Ron DeSantis as the vice president, because he's not seasoned enough yet, but I think would make an excellent president in the future. If Trump wins the nomination, obviously over some globalist Democrat, I would probably support him because I think he had the last election, stolen from him. But regardless, I would still support him. But he's got some ego problems and has some real blind spots. We all do. But I really think a Senator Rand Paul, Ron DeSantis ticket would be the dream ticket and could really turn this country around. I think those two men together is the first time I'd get really excited about leaders. So I'm trying to draft Rand Paul to run, quite frankly.
What about Senator Paul is it that you find so appealing?
But he knows what he's talking about. He's obviously not an egomaniac. And he just understands geopolitics. He understands medicine. He's got a lot of courage. And he's just a statesman. I mean, he's the best thing that's come along, in my lifetime. I mean, Ronald Reagan looked good and sounded good, but he was kind of empty. George Herbert Walker Bush was a total criminal. Bill Clinton was a total criminal. George W. Bush was a little, elf. And then you've got
That was
Obama,
my nickname in high school.
You what?
That was my nickname in high school.
Well, so you're not a elf. But seriously, then you've got Obama, a master criminal, and then you've got Trump, who just wanted to be president. That's what made him so mad, is they didn't control him. And I think clearly he made decisions at the end of the day. That's why the deep state was so mad at Trump. So I support Senator Paul, but if I have to support Trump, I will.
I got into it on election night with another commentator who was making the claim, which I regard as absurd, that Joe Biden is the worst president America had ever had. How would you rank him in terms of the 46 presidents, 46 or 47, whatever it is? Where would he fit in approximately in your estimation?
Well, it depends. Are you looking at actually the most puppetish president, the most ineffectual president, a president that isn't running anything? Or are you looking at as the president that did the most harm?
I would say that, yeah, like in your terms, like who's done, in terms of doing damage to America versus doing positive things for America.
It's either George Herbert Walker Bush or Barack Obama. They've been both slick globalists that really screwed the country up, launched a lot of wars, signed over our sovereignty.
Wait, they're worse than Wilson for you?
I know Woodrow Wilson brought us into the war and brought us the Federal Reserve and brought us the income tax and all of it. I was thinking Woodrow Wilson, but Woodrow Wilson was a puppet. And at the end, Woodrow Wilson said he was sorry and wrote letters before he suddenly had a stroke and disappeared, and Edward Mandel House ran things for the rest of the administration. So, yeah, if you bring in Woodrow Wilson into the fray, because I don't think he was conned. He thought it was really a good deal. Then, yeah, I'd have to say Wilson is a tie with George Herbert Walker Bush and Barack Obama as globalist, New World Order sappers undermining the city and collapsing our republic.
Alex, since we're discussing Woodrow Wilson and the Federal Reserve, I want to take a second and discuss something people can do to stop losing their money due to inflation. Deutsche Bank, Citi, and Morgan Stanley are all forecasting another 25% plunge in the stock market. The only break in inflation is with the recession, and over 80% of retirees are concerned about inflation and are very concerned about the stock market. The author of Rich Dad Poor Dad said, "I believe the economy is the biggest bubble in history. God have mercy on us all." And he bought more gold, predicting $3,000 an ounce gold within a year. In 2008, that stock market and housing market crash, gold went from $800 an ounce to $1,600 over the next 2.5 years. And this could be why he is forecasting $3,000 an ounce of gold. Billionaire economists agree on two things. We're heading toward a recession and investors need to buy gold. So do yourself a favor, check out Patriot Gold Group. If you call 888-505-9845 or go to patriotgoldgroup.com/p/malice, you can sign up to get the free 2022 gold IRA kit. And inside that kit, you'll learn how you can instantly get up to 10 grand or more, Seriously, get up to 10% back on money that you decide to protect. You'll learn how to do it 100% tax and penalty free. Yes, there's a way to legally safeguard your retirement savings, tax and penalty free. And you'll learn how you can protect and grow your retirement right now with the economy in such a state of uncertainty. Protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. The best thing about it all, it's free, 100% free. Guys, gold IRAs have helped thousands protect over $1 billion in retirement savings. Yes, $1 billion. And Patriot Gold has been helping Americans protect and secure their retirement savings in gold IRAs for over a decade. One of the best values out there is their no fee for life IRA with qualified accounts of over 100 grand. No fees for storage, no fees for shipping, no new rollover fees, no new account setup fees, no fees for the life of your account. And with Patriot Gold Group, you'll never pay retail and always work directly with the owners. Patriot Gold has a group of industry experts with a wealth of experience. They've held senior positions at some of the largest retail precious metal investment firms in the US, and they eliminate multiple layers of executive and shareholder compensation, work directly with you to secure the most competitive pricing on gold and silver. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Call 888-505-9845. Mention Michael Malice, that's me, or go to patriotgoldgroup.com/P/Michael Malice, and you'll get best-in-class service from Patriots protecting Patriots. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold or silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 888-505-9845 or go to patriotgoldgroup.com/P/Michael Malice for a free investor guide today. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer 6 years in a row. Call 888-505-9845, mention Michael Malice, or go to patriotgoldgroup.com/P/Michael Malice. And now let's get back to Alex. So you think Obama was a worse president than Biden?
Yeah, he was absolutely. He was super effective. He actually was elected in 2 giant victories. He was actually able to con the American people, and he was supposed to bring unity, and instead he brought division. Yeah, he was very effective running this country into the ground.
How hopeful are you? I mean, if there's this kind of virus that's sitting on a shelf that, if God forbid, gets out, is leading to just a level of damage that we haven't seen since the Black Plague and the 1660, whatever, 1366 or whatever it was. How concerned are you that we're looking at it being a wrap for America?
I mean, the globalists are good at committing evil acts and doing bad things, but they're not good at controlling things. They're actually very incompetent. They just have unlimited money. And so the fact that they've created, they admit, tens of thousands of deadly viruses, hundreds of which have 80% or higher kill rates, like weaponized, humanized mousebox. It's not a question of if, it's when it's going to get out. We know it got out of Wuhan. They now admit it's man-made. So, but again, they go, well, if we don't, it's the Dr. Strangelove angle. Well, if we don't make the super bomb jacketed in Baltonium G, then they'll make a super bomb and then destroy the world. And so it's the same thing. Well, if we don't make the super bioweapon, why they'll make the super weapon? And then at the end of the movie, Dr. Strangelove, well, the nuclear war is about to start. We're 5 minutes till the nukes start hitting. We better all go into the underground mine shafts where only a few of us can live, but don't worry, we'll have 10 women for every male. And then the general jumps up and says, Mr. President, we cannot allow a mine shaft gap. And so, that's where we are. Like, they'll put us into mine shafts living if they get the power and the control. A THX 1138 nightmare. We need to say no to the THX 113 nightmare, no to Dr. Strangelove, and we need to just say stop it and de-escalate this and say, we're not going to plug AI into everything until we know what it really does. Yep. We're not just going to keep making ourselves lab rats. We're not going to just create all these new separate weapons. We're not going to have the scientists go, well, there's a chance the Hadron Superconducting Super Collider will create a black hole or a strangelet and destroy the planet, but we're still doing it. We have to understand that whether Atlantis existed or not, mythically it blew itself up with this unlimited energy source. Well, whether it existed or not, we are now to that Atlantean moment. And the only question is, will we make it through this process where we have still primitive brains and primitive instincts and activities and be able to harness all this incredible technology we have? And then we have the globalists saying, well, that's why, Sonny, we're going to get rid of men and women and families and turn you into basically robots so we don't destroy ourselves. But they're some of the greediest, most hateful, envious nuts in the world. If there was 100 globalists left, on the whole planet with robots and machines and spaceships and life extension, they'd start killing each other over who was going to be the one until there was one of these guys left. That's their mode. That's who they are. And that's why they've got to be stopped, and why authoritarianism has got to be stopped at every level, in every form, because it always leads to totalitarianism.
We don't have to talk about this if you're not in a position to legally, but obviously you made a lot of big headlines with these huge verdicts that were made against you. One of which was in excess of $1 billion. I'm wondering if you have to show up with one of those big checks like Publishers Clearinghouse and hand it to them like a 10-foot tall check. Can you update people as to what the status of those cases are and how you're fighting back if you're in a position to do so?
Sure. Somewhere here on my desk, I have an AP article of all places that came out yesterday, and it said, actually, Alex Jones has a lot of options, and these court rulings are false on their face. He was defaulted in both cases and wasn't able to put on evidence, and the statutes in both states say it's capped at this. This was judicial activism. This was all rigged, but I mean in the real sense of it. And so for folks that don't know, when you declare bankruptcy, all your cards are on the table, and then it's whatever you've got is paid, and then that's dischargeable. They're trying to claim it's not dischargeable, except under law, federal law, when someone's defaulted, it is again dischargeable. So
can you explain what dischargeable means? What's dischargeable mean for people?
It means that after I go through bankruptcy, I can pay what I can pay, and that's it.
Okay.
And so the cruel joke on them is, Michael, I've never had more than $3 million in the bank. I've always put it back into things. They could look at like gross numbers. Oh, in 5 years, he sold $200 million of products. Yeah, make it 20% on them or something and paying for things. So, and all my crew and bandwidth and infrastructure. So when it all comes out in bankruptcy, of course, they're going to say it's not true. But I'm down to $200,000 in my personal bank account. The company's got $1 million in it to run and pay for products and pay the crew. We're very lean. We're very mean. I've got a nice house, a little bitty pool in the back, and I drive a Chevy and a Charger. And so I'm not living around here opulent. And money means really nothing to me as long as I can pay for insurance and, have a car and a house and take care of my wife and family. My wife is great. My 5-year-old daughter is awesome. My other 3 children are almost all moved out and in high school. They're doing great. My oldest son's 20, and then my middle daughter or first daughter is 18. My other daughter's 14. We're one big happy family. I had custody of the first 3, throughout this entire period. And recently, my 14-year-old wanted to go live with her mom. She's doing that. So, I mean, I've got my family. They're what matters. And so I don't laugh at the judgment. They went, Jones laughed, but they don't show the clips. Jones laughed and said he won't pay. I won't pay. Let's say I have 3 gallons of blood in me or whatever it is. And they say, we have a judgment. You've got to pay 10,000 gallons of blood right now. And I laugh and I go, you can exsanguinate me. You can suck me dry. Yeah. I don't have 3 gallons in me. This is a joke. And they know that. But the crazy thing is now, I never had this happen. I have women at restaurants and at grocery stores. I guess I've run into real gold diggers now. Good looking women, by the way, literally run up and start grabbing me, trying to kiss me, saying, I didn't know you were a billionaire. So some of the dumbed down population out there thinks because the news says I owe billions, well, right, I must have 10 billion. Man, I mean, people think I'm a billionaire now, actually.
Does it work how if you're a bankruptcy, they could basically just go to your house and like take your car, take your art, take take your videotapes, take your computers?
Yes. Everything above $75,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's all I've got is like a gun collection of like 40 guns. And, it means nothing to me. So, I'm you get to keep like 2 guns. The art on my walls is like $300, $200. So, that's it. So, but yeah, no, they will get, they'll get my Hellcat. I never drive it. I drive my truck. They'll get my guns. In fact, my furniture and stuff's not even worth that much. So I even get to keep the 2 or 3 watches I've got that actually have some value that people gave me and things. But that means nothing to me. All that matters to me is free speech. That said, people can find the forbidden show at Infowars.com/show. And more importantly, they can share it. People can hear what I actually cover, what I actually do, Infowars.com/show. Or they can go to band.video, not just find my band videos, but hundreds of other band people contributing and fighting on there. And if people want to support us, they can get a book or a film. In fact, I should have plugged this. They'll kill me if I don't. The Great Reset and the War for the World went to #1 in the world for a couple of weeks. That's great. It's still in the top 100, and it's the Great Reset and the War for the World. It's available at InfoWarsStore.com. If you want to do a fundraiser to help keep us on air, you can get a signed copy as well at InfoWarsStore.com. And if you got a few minutes, I know you got to go, and I got to go too, because I've got to get a haircut. I look like a hippie here. People ask, what does the bankruptcy mean? There's different types. I'm in Chapter 11, Subchapter 5. So that's not a liquidation. It simply means that we show them everything we got, we produce a plan where in the future, any extra profits would go to them. But I'm doing that to force them into negotiation, force them into a settlement to be reasonable. If not, I'm going to do the 2 years of appeals. And everybody says, unless the country's totally gone, we're going to win these appeals. But here's the problem. Then they're going to force new trials, which they love the attention. They've raised hundreds of millions of dollars off this. Literally, they just, in fact, if you go back the first few years in Sandy Hook coverage, no one talks about me denying it or even covering it. I just covered it later. So they kind of attached themselves to me and then said I did all these things to them I didn't, had me defaulted so I couldn't defend myself, and then had show trials where I couldn't put on evidence. So with them, I'm like, listen, we all know you're attached. We all know you've got your pound of flesh. We all know you've got your attention for your gun control movements. Now your anti-free speech movements. You can go ahead and have new show trials in 2 years if you want. And then those are going to get overturned as well. Or this madness can all stop. So they act like I made my name on Sandy Hook. It's the opposite. Now, I will be honest. I got deplatformed, as is in the new Trump files that came out that Elon Musk released today. Twitter internally says Jones was deplatformed for saying my battle rifle. I said, if Antifa attacks your house with guns, you should have your battle rifle by your bed when they went to Tucker Carlson's house. They then said, well, Trump's threatening violence too. So they admit in the new Elon Musk files released today, and of course, I'm on Twitter. I live on it. I think it's the best thing out there where you can find all the stuff, even though I'm not on there. I see it all. And so I was banned for saying battle rifle at your house to protect yourself. That's not offensive, but to the left, that's a crime to say you'll defend yourself from the meth head, devil-worshipping Antifa pedos. And so that's what I was banned for. No mention of Sandy Hook. They hired a PR firm that runs the UN's PR in New York. Look it up. They brag about it. They put my name in Sandy Hook in 2016 and 17 in the news, built it up that I was being mean to the families as a way to get their name back in the news on my back, said I did all the stuff I didn't do, then sued me in key controlled jurisdictions to then have this whole thing play out. So you could write a textbook on the mother of all rig trials, the mother of all railroadings, where the entire thing was a giant manipulated process. And just like when they manipulated the election with Trump in 2016, or 2020, and Time Magazine had that huge article, here's how we did it, here's how this alliance defeated Trump. They have now come out and bragged how they rigged the entire process. That's how confident they are. And that's woken up a lot of law firms and a lot of judges and a lot of people. They couldn't help but brag how they rigged the whole thing, created the whole false narrative to kill the American populace, to destroy my name, and to get rich and get massive attention while they did it. Well, the way the world works is a lie goes halfway around the world before the truth puts its pants on. But once the truth puts its pants on, it ends up winning. And so long term, we're going to win if we can just not have a nuclear war with Russia, if we can just stop, them releasing a bioweapon out of Fort Detrick or whatever. I'm actually optimistic about the future because the whole world is turning against corporatism, against statism, against centralization, and is really waking up. And that's why the power structure is so scared.
Alex, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Well, you're very nice and let me rant and rave. And I like that interview we did in New York a few years ago where you really hit me with like 50 questions. So please have me back and I'll be better behaved next time. And I love when you throw quick questions, and you better come on my show. It's not fair. You've been promising since you moved to Austin a year and a half ago to come on my show, and you've not done it.
Hold on one second. Book's out this week, and I'll be on your show to talk about it. The White Pill, whitepillbook.com. Alex, you are welcome.
This is Walk-Ins Welcome with Bridget Fetisi.
I love hearing people's stories of resilience and grit. This is why I created this podcast.
We are very excited to welcome Jim Gaffigan, Yasmin Mohammed, Glenn Beck, Tim Dillon, Abigail Schreier, Jeff Garland, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, Heather Hying, Jonah Goldberg, Ben Shapiro, Glenn Greenwald, Sarah Shahi, Colin Quinn.
If there's a culture of victimhood, then let's tell stories of grit and survival.
Subscribe and listen now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.